and felt okay coming into the transition area. And then when I took off running, I definitely was having stomach cramps. It seems to me what's happening is whenever I try to introduce something into my system, I'm so dehydrated that it's kind of too late. A half Ironman is no joke for me.
You cannot expect to come to a race and use a new strategy. You've got to train these things. I've given him some guidelines. Now he's got to go out and practice and see how far he can push it.
Here we are in Anderson, South Carolina for the REV3. Trista was on the phone with one of our friends. I heard the words, Ryan's going to do a half Ironman, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, that's true. I'm definitely anxious about this one. I've really had a lot of success as far as muscle cramping goes. Been able to virtually eliminate that from all of my races and training, but I've introduced kind of a new issue with this GI stuff. I've been talking with Melissa over at GSSI, and she has been helping me kind of try to figure out what's going on.
So we found out that he was probably a little low on the amount of fluid that he was taking in. So we need to make sure that he gets in that carbohydrate energy, but at the same time is able to take in enough fluid to match his sweat losses.
We've been monitoring my fluid loss during the last few weeks of workouts and figuring out what exactly I need to replace.
And the only real way to know if you're getting in the correct amount of fluid is to weigh yourself before and after activity. You don't want to gain weight during activity, you don't want to lose weight.
I think the REV3 race for sure is going to test the limits of my nutrition plan. This morning I woke up at 5. I don't know if all triathletes don't like to sleep or why these things are always so early in the morning. I'm excited for the race, you know? I mean, you get here and all the people are here, the sun's coming up. I do feel really good. The REV3 race is a 1.2 mile swim, 56 mile bike, and a 13.1 mile run.
What are your hopes and goals for the day?
My goal and a half is always like somewhere around 5 hours. At the 70.3 distance, everything's gonna have to come into play. My training's gonna have to have been effective, and my nutrition plan on race day is gonna have to be dialed in and set. I'm gonna have to really make sure that I'm paying attention to the time, making sure that I'm regular with my nutrition intakes. This is the kind of race where everything's gonna have to come together for it to be successful. I just tried to stay at a nice, consistent, steady pace. I didn't want my heart rate up too high, and I still was able to catch some people and get by some people. This isn't the kind of course where you can really just like put your head down and zone out. It's tons of turns, like stop sign, hard right turn, hard left turns, coming downhill and making a quick turn.
Part of Ryan's problem could have been is that he was waiting until further into the race to start drinking, and then might have been drinking quite a bit of fluid at one time. So it's definitely better to try to consume your nutrition in smaller doses, but at a more frequent rate. Less likely to get GI problems if you do that.
On the bike, I'm gonna be carrying 3 bottles with me. Every 15 minutes, I was taking in some carbohydrates. I didn't want to start off on the run too fast and not leave anything for the end. When you think of South Carolina, you kind of think flat, but here in Anderson, it's actually a little more rugged than I anticipated. It's definitely more hilly. You know, it's not going to be a just cruise through the race kind of course. GSSI looked at the REV3 course and mapped out where the aid stations are, and so I've got a pretty good idea of how much fluid I need to take in. My legs were tired, they felt kind of heavy. But then, towards the last few miles, I kind of looked at my watch again and thought, if I can go 8, 8.5 minute miles here. I can make it in under 5 hours. And that's when I kind of picked up the pace a little bit and squeezed in there. I had Gatorade Sports Science Institute help me lay out a pretty effective nutrition plan, and I stuck to that. I actually felt stronger at the end of the run than I did at the beginning of the run, and so I didn't have any cramping issues, didn't have any GI issues. I think working on the Inside Endurance project has really put myself under a microscope that I'm actually able to see through, so I can kind of see where my weaknesses are, where my strengths are. I did everything I could. That's the best finish I could have had. Today I'm in Portland to work with champion runner Dathan Ritzenhein.
I'm Dathan.
I'm Ryan.
Nice to meet you.
He knows how to run, and I don't.
When you go into a race and you're not warmed up, it can be a shocker to the body.
One of the deficiencies I have is how do you properly warm up? I didn't really know what to do. I just sort of swung some legs around.
Dynamic flexibility is completely different from static stretching.
Definitely not doing this right.